In 1982, the U.S. Mint made a choice that nobody talks about, and it reveals why your pocket change is worth less than the metal inside it. The accepted story goes like this: copper got expensive, so the government switched to zinc. Simple economics, penny problem solved, except that's the surface level explanation, and here's the trick: it leaves out the real financial pressure that forced the mint's hand. The actual story starts years earlier, with a metal market nobody was watching closely enough. For decades, the penny was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. That formula worked fine when copper was cheap. But starting in the 1970s, copper prices climbed dramatically. A combination of global demand, inflation, and industrial growth meant that by 1981, the raw material cost of a single penny had risen to nearly 2 cents. The mint was literally losing money on every coin it produced. Congress noticed, so did the mint's accountants. And in 1982, they made the shift. New pennies would be 5% zinc with a thin copper plating. The cost per coin dropped back below 1 cent. Problem solved. The narrative was clean, efficient, logical. But here's what the official story glosses over: there were other options on the table, and the mint chose the one that required the least disruption to existing machinery. That matters because it reveals the real driver, not just material costs, but operational inertia. The mint had presses, dies, and processes built around a specific coin composition. Switching metals was cheaper than redesigning the entire production system. And here's the trick: that decision locked America into a problem it still hasn't solved. Today, zinc pennies cost the mint around 1.7 cents to produce and distribute. That's still a loss. The mint is spending more money to make a 1-cent coin than the coin's face value. Since 1982, this has cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. But why not just stop making pennies? Because Congress never authorized it, and because the penny has become symbolic. Here's where the real economics get interesting. The penny persists not because of the cost of production, but because of the cost of elimination. Vending machines, cash registers, and millions of small transactions are calibrated around the penny's existence. Removing it would require rewriting pricing conventions, updating software, and managing consumer confusion. That transition cost is what keeps the penny alive. But there's a deeper layer still. The copper-zinc switch in 1982 was actually a symptom of a larger economic shift. America was moving away from commodity-backed currency logic. Coins were becoming less about intrinsic metal value and more about symbolic purchasing power. The penny's material became irrelevant the moment its face value stopped matching its utility. And here's the revelation that dismantles the simple explanation. The mint didn't switch to zinc just because copper got expensive. It switched because the system was designed to absorb costs that the public never sees. When production costs exceeded face value, the loss was absorbed into the federal budget. The penny continued anyway because the infrastructure supporting it was too embedded to remove. Compare this to other countries. Canada eliminated the penny in 2013. Australia did the same. Both countries found that prices naturally rounded, commerce continued, and the savings were significant. But the U.S. penny persists because of political attachment, not economic logic. Zinc or copper, the real cost was always the choice to keep it. So when you find a penny on the ground, you're not looking at a failure of copper economics. You're looking at a failure of institutional willingness to change. The mint switched materials to preserve a system that was never economically sustainable to begin with. The penny survived not because it made sense, but because stopping it would have cost more politically than continuing it. The implications are broader than one small coin. This is how outdated systems persist in large institutions. Once infrastructure is built around something, whether it's a coin, a standard, or a process, the cost of removing it exceeds the cost of maintaining it, even at a loss. The penny is a perfect case study in why efficiency and logic don't always determine what survives. The 1982 switch from copper to zinc looked like a rational response to commodity inflation. It was. But the real story, the one that explains why we're still making pennies today, is that the mint chose the path of least resistance rather than the path of actual reform. And here's the trick: they're still doing it. Today's penny is still a loss leader. The mint still spends more to make it than it's worth. The system that surrounds it is still too embedded to remove. And copper, the material that started this whole story, remains volatile on global markets. Nothing has fundamentally changed except the metal. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. If you want to understand where money actually goes in systems we use every day, from housing to healthcare to the coins in your pocket, subscribe. There's a new case every week. Subscribe to uncover the hidden economics behind the systems you use every day, new deep dives every week. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.